What's up? What's up? What's ever everybody? Can you hear me out there? It's Christian Baxter, host of the Yours Truly podcast. Here, I've got a friend with me backstage. I dropped the link before the live stream and went fishing and got somebody. My friend Henry's backstage. Before we get started, don't forget like and subscribe. Does corn mean you can hear me? Can hear, yes. I don't know what corn means. I still don't know. Corn is fake news. Thank you, Brian. Christian is streaming from an undisclosed location. True. So I work off some nights or some days, and I've happened to be working this week of Thanksgiving. And so I decided to fire up a virtually not alone live stream. If you can see the bubble in the corner here. Yeah, so we've lost the thread. I'm going to bring Henry back in. We're going to start talking about the vibe shift, losing the thread, and just whatever else has been going on. Partially related to artificial intelligence. So here's Henry. Henry, what's up, dude?
Oh, here we go. Hey, I'm all right. Just doing the Wednesday night staying up late thing.
Wednesday night. This is staying up late at 8:51 in the evening.
It's almost
Or at
10
least,
for me, though.
oh, Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah, Eastern Standard.
Oh, man. What's up, Nick? We are hanging out. AI is meh. So I've had this feeling. I'm using AI a lot, like on this channel, and I am like, but then I look out and I think about, I don't know, just like the last, like being in the information, we call it the information age, and like had this very specific. I was talking to Henry backstage about this, but like, very specific feeling when I guess what's called postmodern neo-Marxism woke peaked in like 21, and Henry experienced like through the lens, like in Comic Gate, which is like adjacent to Gamergate, like during all this kind of stuff. And I had this sense like, oh, you can just kind of tell there's something going on underneath the surface. It was like kind of like this really big gaslight thing and culture. And now it doesn't feel like, I mean, people are still gaslighting all over the place in this world, but like it kind of sometimes feels more like people are not like trying to hide and put on a nice face, but like the middle fingers are just out all the time. And it's like the opposite, right? And so I'm just like, it's a different, so that's like one thing. And then, Henry, have you heard the term Black Swan event before? It's
No,
like,
I've seen the movie Black Swan starring
oh,
Natalie
well,
Portman.
yeah, that's not exactly, maybe it is. I don't know enough about that movie. It's like dancing or ballet, but like, there's this, it's like an unforeseen event. And even though like AI has been in the public imagination for a long time, like it's now like in a sense out of the bag or whatever. It was unknown. Like, what is it going to do to us? What is it doing to us? What's it going to do to us? Like, I still think all that stuff in the air. And I don't know. I was curious. I'm curious on what people are thinking. If we can even get more people into the conversation, kind of in this vibe shift, do you feel like it's harder to kind of like follow, I don't know, a thread? Like I was explaining to Henry, like it felt like, okay, so maybe you have these ideas in the back of your head, but there were like real life cancellations. I had Grok make like a list of what were the real life cancellations and firings that happened to people, and like spun out like 20 just in a short list. Some of them was high profile, some of it was people, just like random people in random kind of um and it's not that long ago, at least for like old people like me. But I don't know, being on the other side of it, not like feeling, I guess, not having that kind of underdog feeling in a sense. Um, so there's like that going on, but then there's also this AI has come into the social experience and consciousness, and I think I could be wrong, but I feel like, I mean, and maybe I probably am projecting this, but like self-conscious about using it, or like how much, or like you know maybe a lot of people are self-conscious, or uh, don't know how to articulate how it's getting integrated in their life, or like when it first, the rumblings of it a year or two ago, it'd be like, oh no way, like, and then you kind of get into it and you're like, oh, this is really helpful or powerful in this certain ways. And yes, it is Henry, uh, anyone that's asking. But I'm like, I was just thinking, like, how do we talk about it? Not just like at it, but like what we think it is doing to us, or what do I think it's doing to me, or what, um, and not because there's like all these different conversations, like use it, don't use it, or it's just a tool, or it's going to cause the collapse of civilization. Like I feel like all this stuff is, so let's see. Matthew Parlato says, John Vervaeke's point, to the degree it is salient whilst poorly understood, it is bullshit technically. So, uh, anyways, do you have thoughts, Henry?
I think I have thoughts to like the idea of the kind of, we have the middle finger culture now where it really doesn't matter. We can kind of just say whatever the heck we want. Um, it's like authenticity culture, but like flipped. It's almost like this weird kind of, what's the word for, like perverted, like extreme attempt at that. Because like during cancel culture, we were like, you know, we have a particular correct view about how to be genuine, authentic, right? There was a particular, what's the word, mode of being. There was a particular liturgy. There was a particular law that was spoken of and unspoken of. Vice signaling. Yeah, that's the opposite of the
I
virtue
was gonna
signal.
say, yeah, and I was gonna say, I can't remember. I can't remember if Jordan Hall was talking to. Maybe it was with Gray. I can't remember who he's talking to. It was Grim Grizz, and he was
Hmm.
like, courage is going to be, there's going to be a perversion of courage, kind of like we had like a perversion of compassion. And so like I'm like identifying like courage culture, but it's like it's not really, some of it's not really courage, and like some of it's very performative. And I think these things were coming into play like post Charlie Kirk assassination, but also kind of the blood sport culture that's come up. A lot of Gen Z young men, like it's like, oh, I'm courageous, but it gets like, well, vice, it kind of, that vice signaling is within there. I think that's a good virtue signaling versus vice signaling. Yeah, keep going, Henry.
Um, and so we're at a point where, not that there's no rules, but we're, you know, I don't want to say like free speech came back, but it kind of did versus like the 2010s. But now the problem is, um, we have this kind of freedom, kind of this FU culture, but now we're kind of at odds with, a power that's greater than ourselves, of like, what is real, what is not real. Now it doesn't matter that who is and who is not canceled, or who is correct or not correct with all the virtue signaling. Now it's like, oh, we have a common threat again, or like a common enemy, per se, right? to a degree, I suppose. Not quite, but like the threat is now outside of ourselves, our own kind of political views. It's almost like reality. Like what is real, what is not real, what can we trust as information, what can we not trust? Because like all those things are completely falling apart. Um,
Yeah, at the same time, like they kind of happened at the same time. The well, we got free speech back, the vibes back, and then like this AI thing is because I mean people can shit on it, but like it's powerful and it makes slop and it makes but it's also like the fact that it can make the kind of slop it does is still like, oh, it's AI slop, but it's like can you in like third like a minute and a half could you Photoshop even that AI slop yourself? Like just like that general in the general public, like um or some kind of like, hey, explain this to me. Or even for me, like, what do you think this message means? Like there's all
yeah,
sorts of shit like I'm uh filtering through that, just being honest. And I don't, so like you have the free speech and the courage, but then like how much of that actually is your courage and how much of that is something that you're like is being process filtered.
yeah.
um,
Well, how much of this like kind of the dissolving of kind of cancel culture, like it kind of was like Ouroboros. It kind of ate itself after a certain point, right? As these things tend to do.
well, my question on that though is if it had not like there was a seismic thing that happened, like a billionaire spent like $1 billion and bought a a media platform
Yeah.
that was being used by the government like to like filter information. And so it's like it did eat it is like having, but it I just wonder in history, like when people get that kind of power and that authority and stuff, they're not going to just like let it go
No.
if they can't help it. And so I think something did happen, but so now that it's easy to kind of like be like, oh, now we have, this is just the way things are, but like it wasn't that this way. And the average person didn't really like, you could have a million subscribers on YouTube or Twitter or whatever, and go on Joe Rogan and try to like deal with this, and you still couldn't do it. And a guy literally just like
Yeah.
did some. I mean, and so it did change things, and but now that it's kind of like though it has the opportunity now to eat that thing that was the tail or whatever. Like it has the ability to now. And I wonder in history if they're like in our revolutions in the past, like where people did it just get so bad one direction it uh, and no one was able to really step in and do something non-kinetically. This was, I don't know, but but being on this side of it, it feels like there's, I don't know, um, the bickering within like the political right feels like it's because we have we always feel like we have to find like an enemy to unite against.
Yeah. Um, yeah. But have we figured out maybe as a whole? I think we can say like, we're infighting about AI, we're out fighting about it. Is that actually the common enemy though, per se? Because like the actual concerns still persist between party lines, and that discourse still exists as messy as it is. Like there's no consensus. We don't have we don't have in Watchmen, we don't have the big squid to kind of bring
Mm.
everybody together. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, well, I don't know, but it makes me think of like some bad baddie on the new Superman movie. They have like those like extreme baddies that are just kind of
Hmm.
like, I don't know, like you have I don't know if that's exactly what that means, but
So like in Watchmen, this is like alt 80s history, and like this superhero has this plan to end the Cold War before it goes fully nuclear. That's to send this big created alien out to kill a bunch of people in New York, and then it does, but then it like ends the Cold War, and then everybody has an effort to like work together to combat future alien invasions, and he solves like the peace problem by like taking out a bunch of people. Not saying that that's the solution, obviously, but right, do we have a big enough like villain, right, to kind of maybe cease even like infighting within like the nation? There's nothing that's like particularly unifying, right? And like nothing's unified on any scale.
I heard Chris Williamson say, which he had a great podcast with an artist named John Bellion this week. It's kind of like a hip hop.
I know John Bellion, yeah,
Christianish guy,
mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
but in it, I think it was in that conversation. Well, I'm just gonna play the clip. How about that? Because I have it queued.
Sure.
And hopefully I can get it to work and do audio. So we'll see. We shall see. Add to stage. All right. Let's see if we got this. Tell me if y'all are getting audio. Are you getting audio?
And honestly, I'm a really big fan of you as what you've decided to put out into the world. I respect that.
Thank you.
Deeply, on a really deep level. So
thank you.
Yeah.
That means a lot. Taste is absent even more in my industry than in yours. And I'm trying my best to like hold on to that wherever I can and to refine that.
What's the temptation for like a guy at your level, top level of conversation having, podcasting content? Like, what is the daily temptation of the like, I know I could blow the door open on da 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 da. Like, what is your like content?
Well, first one would be almost all platforms, big platforms with like hardcore tribal audiences are built together over the mutual hatred of an out group, not the mutual love of an in group.
Wow.
This is how all cults, how all movements are built, right? By identifying the other. If you look at the way that American elections have been won, the last election where the party that was voted in was voted for love of party, not hatred of the other, was 2012. Since then, most people have protest voted against I am not that, not I am this.
Wow.
And that's how, so a great way to judge whether or not the content creator that you listen to is playing the game correctly, or playing the game in an honest way. Is the audience bound together over the mutual belief of something as opposed to the mutual disbelief of something else?
Wow.
And I've never played that game. I don't start beef with people online, even if I get like poked at a little bit here and there. I genuinely try and platform people who I can go from fucking John Bellion and Matthew McConaughey to like some 22-year-old YouTuber from London who I found a one video essay of and I fucking love.
Yep.
I'm like, you're coming to Austin and I'm going to speak to you on the podcast and I'm just going to give you a shot.
Yep.
Like, who the fuck am I to say I'm going to give you a shot? But the entire industry is you holding onto the coattails of people bigger than you. And then, 3 and a bit years ago, Rogan puts me on when just a DM. I've got 250,000 subs. It's nothing. And he brings me on and gives me a shot and it went really well. And that was great.
Wow.
And being the opportunity to go from you like lying in the hammock everybody else has created for you to turning the hammock into a trampoline that other people can bounce off.
Yes.
Is really fucking cool. Two of the
There's a lot in there. There's a lot to unpack there.
Unpack.
Sure. I think the out infighting or like the outsourcing, I guess, like a common cause because of like the love or hate of something is really interesting. Said, what was it, like most cults are bred out of the out group, hate of the out group. And I was like, oh, well, like Christianity's bred out of the love of the in group, or like what's within the group. And that's something that binds one that obviously transcends everybody, but it's a common figure that's not hated, right? Because it's that which binds the group together. And there isn't that. And I wonder how much Well, because like maybe it was 2016 and the 2020 election. Like I think both kind of Trump elections were bred technically on both, or at least what like Trump was like hating it. It's like the unity was he hates the out group that we hate, right? And then this last election, not the 2020. I mean the 2021 too, but like the re-election was kind of bred on that as well. Right? The
it's
conceit is never like, well, he's a great guy, and what we want is this is what we want. It's like, no, we need to take this party out. We need to take this party out, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
yeah, it was both and, because I mean, and most politicians do this, like hope, Obama's was like hope, and and Trump's is make America great again. So there is like I guess, I don't know, is that a positive vision? And then obviously then all the rhetoric is about fake news and, build a wall, in group, out group. Like, so, yeah, but feeling like some kind of optimistic, like aspirational, unifying thing. And I mean, you were too young to have experienced like the 9/11 thing did for a while. COVID had it for a minute. Like COVID had it for like just like a minute. Like we're all in this together,
Did we?
It was like, it felt like that for like, I don't know, less than a month. And then, but 9/11, like it lasted, and it was a distinct feeling of patriotism, like
Yeah.
across divides, that was really undeniable. And regardless of how the towers fell, like it's just like that happened. And so yeah, it's felt like we haven't felt united in a long time, and aspiration. And so I think there's a longing to get behind vision that is hopeful, I guess, but it feels very difficult. And it felt difficult like previously under the kind of like gaslight pretenses. It was like, on the outside, we're going to pretend like we're like, oh yeah, the adults are back in the room, like, we're back. But I also think that there are other things, like, I mean, that feel too, I mean, financial, like economical things, like, I don't know, there's like Ray Dalio and other people that talk about like systems of cycles of empire too, that like we might be winding one down. And if that's the case, it's likely that you can't get that kind of consensus.
Mm-hmm.
And, with massive wealth inequality, it's harder to get people to feel like there's like that kind of thing too. So you just kind of wonder. So that's why it feels like lost the thread, I just, it's hard for me to imagine what my son, like my kids, like when they're adults, it's hard to imagine what that world is going to be like. Well, actually, maybe it's too easy to imagine. And that's because I've seen it on every dystopian sci-fi movie that I've ever watched as and I'm kind of like, oh, like, is that going to be some version of reality, or is there going to be some kind of like counter, correction or something? I just don't. That's why it feels like, what is the thread? And obviously it's like, live your life and be faithful, but within some kind of version of the imaginary. I don't know. For me, that's a blessing and a curse to have that. Seems like it continues.
Well, I wonder if like the solution to some of that is like, as you said before, like playing. Because the other thing that got brought up in that little clip that was interesting was like the trampoline comment, just to kind of cultivate that of like, there's this guy and he made this thing that I thought was cool. Let's give him a shot. Give him a shot, per se. right? That's the definition, I think, of playing and participating, like across strata. That's that thing that like the corner does really well. Not to do the corner navel gazing, because I really don't want to do that because I don't know
It's
enough about
fine.
corner and I don't like participate. Anyway,
Well, how would
but
you
that's what
say it
that
does?
is.
What's some examples of doing it well then? That if you know that if you think that it does, what are the examples?
I think just the StreamYard, just like hopping in and jumping around and stuff. If you got something cool to say, you kind of get to stick around based on that. It's almost like merit based too, in the participation. And that merit is based on like, are you contributing something, or are you like a gargoyle and really active in the chat? Like there's something you have to contribute. You can't just you can't ride the coattails insofar as like catching somebody else's fame. Like you also like draw attention to yourself in some way, and get involved in the conversation. And whether you're noticed or not is one thing. So like when PBK does his like little spotlights, we're like, hi, this is Paul, this is this video that I saw from this person, and then it gets clipped. Like that's probably the best example of like a trampoline thing. And it's not riding the coattails, because usually like people participating is not like, the end goal is not, let me go like talk to this person and like participate with them. Like I this is what I want to do is the end goal. It's more like it's for its own good and own thing. Because like it's the opposite of like profilicity and chasing profilicity.
Yeah, it's interesting because like well, like the randos culture, like I feel like he used that Chris Williamson used hammock versus trampoline, like
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever double jumped or boom, like there was like you had the ability to highlight, like you were saying, that he's done before.
Yeah.
And I mean, for me, like he's done that a lot with randos and other stuff and clips from live streams on Grail Country or whatever. And I just had on Benjamin Boyce, and it was my biggest podcast ever. And his last podcast he did with me was biggest. But when I first invited him over a year ago, because it was the first time I was going to have a conversation about politics on my channel. And I was like, I'm going to see if Benjamin will talk to me about it.
Yeah.
Because I'd followed, and he was gracious, but he critiqued the way that I invited him. He was like, hey, he was like, it could have been taken as pretentious, but it's almost like, it almost was more like you cared enough to say something. Like it was interesting. And then he kind of like alluded to at the end of our first conversation, like this, like kind of like what Chris was saying, like there's like this line, of like reaching out to people. And so there is like a generosity related to that. And that is, I don't know. I think it's seen, or it comes through. And I think one of the reasons I got on here, I put parasocial in the description because, and I play that Chris Williamson clip. Like I've loved his podcast in a lot of ways, because he was like interviewing the IDW guys and Peterson and the Rogue. He was but he was this millennial guy with this kind of like vision for what he was doing that I found very, like captivated by. And I was sitting there. He was on Rogan today, and it was weird. I was listening to them talk, and because I was like, I'm here alone. It's the holidays, I'm feeling a little bit in my feels and down. And I kind of was like, I'm kind of they mentioned something. Chris Williamson mentioned like sometimes people for like me or you, Joe, they have had more FaceTime with us like than they have parents. And I'm like thinking about that parasocial reality. And I was probably like drawn to just sit there and listen to him. For one, I liked that clip that I just saw like yesterday, but then it was like this kind of nostalgic or like parasocial thing of sitting there with these guys that now I've watched for a long time. And I was like, wow. And so then deciding to come on and stream was like another aspect of that. I was like, well, which is interesting. It's like, well, I don't just have to like do this parasocial thing. I can do Grim Grizz's virtually not alone thing.
Yeah.
And so there's that. What are any other thoughts on the clip or those things?
I think we're not past it, but I was thinking I've talked about like maybe the coattails thing, like why do we follow or like want to participate in the lives of people who are higher profile? Like what is that ultimately going to actually do for us? Like I had an encounter.
Oh, yeah, we talked about. Did we talk about this?
Maybe
About the
we did
band?
already bring it up.
The
Yeah, and
band?
again it was like why
go
do
ahead.
we I just think about that. I'm like, why did I want to do that ultimately? Like what is actually what ultimately would ultimately come out of that, right? Beyond
Dude, it's
like a
story. It's
sure.
story, dude. I don't like. I shook Jordan Peterson's hand at Symbolic World Summit.
Yeah.
And what do I have from that? Like, it was like, 30 seconds. But like, I went outside and told Nate Heil and Matt C. and Father Joe, and I can't remember who else. Oh, Paul. Maybe it was Paul was standing there with us. It was like, it was like, hey, I get to tell this story. I get to tell this story. I get to have this. And then this is now part of my story. And like, there is like this narrative structure to our lives. And there's also just like, dude, hierarchies are as old as the trees, bro.
Sure,
They're as
but like
old as.
here's a question though. Not to downplay either of our experiences, but like is that part of the story ultimately really important versus the other parts of the story?
Why does it not ever end? Why Princess Diana? Like what is it about our we have like if
Oh no. I didn't am I in charge now? Crap. So until Christian Baxter comes back, I guess I'm gonna run this. Um so the question of like participation in certain things, um my friend has a theory as to um as to why we find celebrities attractive, but then like he posits that there are certain people in our own lives that, given the circumstances, etc., would also or could have been celebrities as well. And so there's certain personalities, certain traits that are would be universally appealing, whether it's charisma, etc., that are attractive, that would be, you know, just as admired and wanted to be participated in. So like, I don't know, there might be people you encounter that in another life, for lack of a better word, could also be celebrities. And that's an interesting thing theory my friend posits, and I thought that was really interesting. And so like within the corner we have our mini celebrities, as unremarkable and for lack of a better word, as any of us may be in our own actual corporal lives and not the virtual lives. Um yeah, that's what I have to say till Christian comes back. Because I think I'm the only one on stage. Oh boy. Yeah. So yeah, that's the theory. I'm gonna keep going. Okay. So profilicity, participation. Um, it's really it's weird because like it's more worthwhile. Like just my encounters today with some people that I had. There are better stories to be had with the people you know closely, deeply, intimately, than the stories you have with the celebrities and the high profile people that you kind of encounter once in a while. Um, and those are the things that will actually truly kind of stick around, and probably be the most salient, most worthwhile things to reflect on, because even like an encounter with like a celebrity or a high profile person for a moment I don't think has the same narrative takeaways, for lack of a better word, maybe, that like maybe the more mundane, regular encounters we have with friends and people we know do. Like those are the things that you would, actually be more quick to reflect on instead of like, oh, I saw this guy. Like, what's the point of that story other than like you saw that guy, right? Maybe it's narratively significant to your story, but like in retelling that story, is there anything worthwhile to it insofar as like value to be shared in the story with others?
Am I echoing?
So that's
Can you?
that.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Am I echoing?
I'm not hearing any echo.
Well, oh, I think I know what it is. Dude, my camera died. Yeah. It's about I was and then dude, we lost one. I'm still echoing. It's weird. Let's see. Anyways, faux pas. What was this thing? I'm using big nursing word. I have a terrible echo. Well, I don't know if we can pitch anybody.
I'll give you another profile thing.
What's a profile?
So like when we meet people and we like collect our relics from our celebrities and stuff, whether it's like autographs or signed jerseys and stuff, is the value is kind of found just in the nature of like the profile and stuff versus like things that are created by others on the small scale for one another. Like, does one of those have more value than another? Like same kind of concept like encounters. Like I purchased so and so's artwork, who's like a fancy person. Like that's like half a story. But like this shirt that I'm wearing, I guess to use as an example, it's got like my friend, because we were having a conversation about like the Peanuts and like early like Snoopy and how cute like the little early drawings was. She was like, "Oh, you know what?" I was joking, like, "Yeah, I put the Snoopy on a T-shirt." And she's like, "Oh, you know what?" So like for my birthday or for Christmas, like last year, she made this shirt and she drew this little like Snoopy sitting on the ottoman by this little sofa for me to wear on a shirt. And I think there's more value in that kind of encounter and story, right? This artist that I know who is not prolific in any way, right, per se, versus like, oh, I bought so and so's painting, or oh, I just bought like this, sketch from this artist that like everybody knows. I don't know. Is there some sort of
Yeah,
value to the like the small interpersonal? Like there is, I think there's more value to that because it's
I don't.
not self-seeking either. There's no like a claim to be had with that either.
I think there's something true. We art in certain ways. There's like the art for the art of like the chair is a great work of art because it's functional, it's good, it's true, it was made by a person with care. But there's also like why do we like hero stories? Like why do we watch these things? There's like an ideal, there's an something to aim towards. Um, Yet a lot of times we probably are projecting more onto like a hero than they deserve because they're like another human, like you're saying. But I do believe like that, not in every case, because it's not strictly about competence. And this was even this conversation, like the one I was referencing with John Bellion, because he's like, when you meet people that are very, very talented, that might not be like, I've played music with incredibly talented people that aren't famous, but could that could play at the level of any kind of like performing artist.
Well, that's that thing I said earlier of like there are people who exhibit celebrity traits in like their everyday world that you might encounter
Yes.
who are
And
and could be that, but they're not.
yes. And, but there's also, there's something to building something, crafting something over time that does something like it becomes more salient.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden it's like, and there's a different that's doing stuff with our attention that's uh that draws us to that. And the, I just think it's a part of reality. It's not necessarily like when we talk about value, we talk about value hierarchies, like making a choice, like like Luke, whenever I had Benjamin on, he's like, you're not, I'm not gonna watch your big show. I'm watching these other people's shows because they are higher in my value hierarchy. Like he's literally texts me that. And like you know, trying to deal and wrestle with this very thing. And I think that there's something happens. It doesn't make that person, like, I think this is the tension. Like when you're talking about your friend that you love, actually, probably, or you care about. And it's like our relationship to our children and our relationships to like family or something like that, like, or to close friendships. It's not the same thing as watching Michael Jordan play basketball.
Mhm.
And even though he's probably not somebody you would ultimately want to be friends with,
Yeah.
like there is a magic to watching. There was a magic to watching him play the game.
Yeah.
And you could ascribe that to anybody that becomes that salient. And some of it's talent, some of it's genetics, some of it's charisma, some of it's all these things that aren't fair, but you look at it and you're like, man, I want to watch that again. Chris Williamson's way, you know, he's done podcasting has been very, very intentional. Like, you know, Joe Rogan's kind of playing, and Chris Williamson like worked really hard until he was like, oh, I need to actually play. But either way, they kind of found themselves there. And Joe Rogan probably started to play, like not playing as much in a sense and being like professional at times or whatever. But I don't know. There's something to what is being done with our attention towards like this band that you went and saw, that you had the opportunity to kind of like, am I going to get to hang out with these people? Why do I want to do that? Because they're like, they've done something with my attention that's
Yeah.
powerful.
But I've not done anything for their attention. Like it's reciprocal for that to be really meaningful beyond the parasocial, beyond the value of the work itself.
Except for what Chris said.
Sure.
Except for the opportunity to, you know, which is a little bit of Petersonian's voluntary self-sacrifice, because maybe Chris reaching out to that 22-year-old, like that he's not going to be a part of somebody's salience, but he's a part of his.
Yeah.
And even though it won't like maybe generate that, there's something to that. And that brings meaning and purpose. Actually, a fan brings meaning and purpose to the work. Like there's like there's a relationship there.
Sure. Yeah.
And so, but it's sometimes we want to be like, we want to do, I think it's like maybe like a false equivalency to be like, well, the card that my daughter made me for Father's Day probably in the scheme of things will be more meaningful to me than somebody signing a book.
Sure.
You know, like, but that doesn't mean that I have to pit them against each other.
No, that's fair.
But I understand, like,
I think there's a danger though in ultimately doing kind of like the celebrity, like not clout chasing, but attention chasing thing.
Oh yeah.
It's almost the James 1 thing of like, you know, when so and so pulls up and he's got the gold ring and the drip to the church, like, don't be giving him the highest seat, right? Lest the person who does not, right, shows up and you make him sit at your feet. Like, I feel like that's almost where that can go, in which one's attention is solely seeking the, seeking the high profile for whatever purpose, and neglects maybe even that which exists in their own like local community.
Yeah. And it's interesting, like my sister's lived in Nashville for like 20 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And she used to see like Keith Urban and Nicole Kidman. When she was in college, she'd see Keith Urban and Nicole Kidman at Starbucks.
Yeah.
And Nashville at that time was a kind of a little bit of like, and this was outside of Nashville, but like there was kind of this like, hey, just let them be. You know, this isn't LA. This isn't LA. You're going to see Garth Brooks sometimes, or you're going to see some like, and there was kind of the sense of like, in a way that was kind of being done in a little bit of like, we're going to not actually do that. And it probably, and the people that were famous probably like, there was like an appreciation for that in a way. Cause it's like, cause even in that John Bellion interview, he was like, everybody I talk to that's famous, like there's nobody that I sit down in a studio when we're working on stuff who's like ultra famous, that's recognized everywhere, that just loves that.
No, I can't imagine that's particularly appreciated.
Yeah.
Ultimately, because there's no way to actually participate in like the grounded, like in the grounded world per se. You always have to be, it's performative at all times. Which is why I hate going out as a teacher in public.
Oh yeah.
Because as soon as I see a student, I'm like, oh God, like I'm just with my friends and they're like a kid. And like, this is not an encounter that needs to exist outside of the one space it's in. Because now I am Mr. I'm not going to dox myself like I did in my own live stream, but you know, the other day, you know, but like now I'm that role again in this moment, or there's a dissonance now, like worlds collide in like not a good way. And whatever self that I have in that moment has to be kind of stripped away or frozen in real time. In this brief encounter with like a student that I have, because it's the like mall Santa thing. I have a certain standard and reputation and perception to a particular group that need not be altered because I'm going to see them the following week, right? Like,
so that's real.
Yeah.
Like it's real. Like, so what is that? What is that? That persona, that mask? What is that? Like this in this, what we're talking about, authenticity culture.
Well, do parents have a mask?
Yeah.
Just from my experience with like listening to kind of, because I've been in conversation with some friends and they're like new parents, and I hang out with them and they're like their dad and whoever, and so I hear about, oh well, we kept this from you guys because you didn't need to see this, or you know, this was going on the entire time that you were this age, because you know it's not your responsibility as a child to have to like deal with whatever your mom and dad are going through. You know, there's a performance there too. It's the embodying of a role.
Yeah.
The problem with celebrity culture though is they're already embodying roles in the films or whatever that they do, or even like on the stage. And the audience, the common public, for whatever reason, can't separate that, because you probably like an actor, not necessarily for the actor themselves, but for the roles they play. Like I've always had that with like actors. Like when you talk about like, this sounds weird, but like as a kid, you have like celebrity crushes. I was like, no, it was more like the actors were playing like a character that I thought was like attractive or interesting, and not the actor themselves. And so like in public, that's an unnecessary performance they now have to put on, because they're paid to perform, but in public, like they are just kind of a person. I don't know. There's something there too.
I
But
think
just
I think
like,
Gen.
but that's just like
Well,
performative, like acting.
what do you think? Do you think Gen Z has a different perspective on celebrity, for one, in general, and two, Justin Bieber just became like a Twitch streamer
Did
recently.
he?
That's like it's his new thing where it's not video games, but like he made a house, like kind of like a, I don't know, I don't have a better word for it than like a real world uh like Big Brother house, just like a, it's like it's got a basketball court, it's got video games, it's like it's got a stage where he can just go and perform with his band, and
Okay.
he's always, and there's some crew in there that's just like in the live, the when he's live streaming, it's just like the comments are going or whatever. And he did like a whole concert, like of one of his albums, like this past week. But what do you, yeah, what do you think? What do you think's happening there?
That's some weird, almost parasocial stuff, I suppose. The like Twitch live, because that we're not too far off from like what this Twitch like interactions are, honestly. And the
Yeah,
only thing that
no,
separates us is the StreamYard link for
which
people,
is here if anybody wants to.
which is there. Um, but every time that we bring up, William Branch, who by the way, I'm not an up and coming pastor. I don't want that. I saw that comment. I don't want that life. Um, you know, is that any different than, you know, some celebrity or like e-girl like responding to a comment who like paid the most money to get that attention and stuff?
Hmm.
Not that William Branch is paying money to listen to us talk.
Well, I mean,
And,
paying attention.
we might be handsome, but we're not the eye candy. That's not the focus of the content here.
Yeah, what do you think? Yeah, I'm just what he's what like you said, it's not that different. And I mean, I think that YouTube is pushing live streaming as, because I think apparently it does things with attention.
It's
It does connect more to the parasocial, like it's doing all sorts of things. Um and yeah, I was watching creators like that I follow be like, hey, I'm going to integrate this more into, and I think, I mean, when in the back, you probably see this in the back end of YouTube Studio, there's like, hey, we're doing this now, and we're going to try this thing now, and all that kind of stuff. So, I
well,
think that
there's an eradication of privacy with all of this, and like influencer culture comes to my mind as well. So when I was doing some more work for Lego blog, I wrote two op-eds on my problems with kind of contemporary like ambassador culture. And part of that is so if you're an ambassador for a product, if I was an ambassador for Lego would send me products and I would sit here and I would say, hi, I'm Henry. And today we're going to be looking at set number 10198, Fire Brigade from this thing. Not that that's out on shelves. That's like a 20-year-old set, but I'm paid for this. My views are expressed, but at the same time, I'm creating an environment that looks like it's personal and open. Right, this is my room and this is my display. Like it's in my house where this is it. Like the studio is not 5 miles away, or in Burbank, California. Like the studio is within my space, but it's curated in a particular way that looks both like it's a real space, but it's like here, like we're blurring the lines between what we used to kind of know as pretend and what is like real. And what influencer culture does with that is like if I have my like house in my room/studio and I've got all my Lego product and it looks like a real house and I'm treating it like this is my regular day-to-day life, that what that does is absolutely encourage what the brand wants and the company wants, which is to absorb and adopt the product as part of the lifestyle. Like that's the lifestyle brand. And that's what the
and
ambassadors do is distort reality by making it look like this is their life all the time, that this is the life.
that makes me think of like how Brett Cooper was marketed on Daily Wire. I don't know if you know who that is.
I
She was
know
like
who Brett Cooper is, but I don't know what the marketing was.
Well, just that I'm sure that the room that she was doing her like news reports from was a studio. Like it wasn't her room, but it was made to make you feel like it was.
Yes, yeah, and that's
And like so that was the vibe. Like, hey, this is a girl. This is a girl in her bedroom who's been online, like, and she's gonna tell you the tea from her bedroom because that's like what a younger girl, a college girl or
sure.
something.
Yep.
You know, it's like giving you a vibe of what someone I guess wants to like a character, I guess, in a certain way.
Yeah, that's and there's like I don't know, the breaking of the privacy is maybe dangerous, and that's part of that like distorted view that Z has of things. Like they don't younger Gen Z. I guess I'm Gen Z too, but you know, I had like real content. My content feed was not influencers reacting and responding to things. Something is rotten in Denmark. The Lego group is not what it used to be. It makes me sad.
Do you know this person?
No, I don't.
I didn't know if is that like an inside joke for that, or is it just about the whole marketing thing you're
I
talking
think it is just the marketing thing. Kierkegaard's from Denmark though, so that can't all be that bad. I like Kierkegaard. Anyway, I didn't mean to. Anyway, the darn it, I was talking about something. Oh,
Gen
breaking.
Z.
Yeah, their content is majority like influencers, and their content is majority like people doing kind of things like in the world and gaining some sort of clout and status as like individuals, like and not by traditional methods per se, like a select like an influencer actor online who does like react videos and stuff. It's not the same as like a trained actor in Hollywood, right?
Yeah, it's a different form. It's a different medium.
And
So
like
what is that message versus like cinematography? Like what is
yeah,
the
or like
message?
what is as fun as independent content creators with like gaming, streaming, and stuff. Like what has that done to our perception of celebrity culture and status? That's
Well, I
helped to
mean,
fracture it, like everything else. Like everything else
I
is
can't
scattered it.
remember who was talking about this, but Mr. Beast put on a like some kind of celebrity soccer match or whatever. And he had he had like Los Angeles celebrities go out first, and there was like, and then he had like short form content people go out and there's a little bit more, and then he had long form content people and there was more, and then they had live streamers go out and the place was going nuts, like of who, and that's like what the highest level of celebrity for Gen Z or whatever, right? So um that it is now the most has the most attention, but it also isn't like it's like you're saying, are they it's not acting in the sense of like Juilliard acting, but it is like a performance. But what kind of performance is it? And if it's like you in your house, like, what is the perception of, like you said, celebrity or fame is not in some ways like centered as much in those circles necessarily like around like a marketed person like that has all this distance that we were talking about earlier, because you
Yeah.
mentioned distance too.
Well, William Branch says a teacher is centered in a crowd too, and that's true. And I think that I've lived kind of this like
Yeah, Kale talks
celebrity
about that.
status with my students because they ask me the
Yeah.
most invasive personal questions and it's not appropriate. And they don't need to know what I do outside of my contract hours with them, you
Mm.
know? Um, and yet they're so insistent on wanting to know. It feels like it is in a way, if we want to call it that. And I hate this, like celebrity gossip culture. Like, what kind of food does I was about to do it again. What does Mr. Henry like, or like what does he do? Does he drink? Does he smoke outside of this place? And I'm like, what's it to you? Why do you need to know? Oh, does he have a girlfriend? Is he married? Where is blah blah blah? Like these are the things that they ask me. These are the things that I am bothered with. Um and
What
that's
was there something about like how our like they're like also imagining their own future too, though.
Yeah, they are. Right. It's like, oh, can I be not that anybody I think they're all like none of us want to be like Mr. Blank. "Oh, I'm gonna do it again. You know. That's usually where it turns out to.
What does this say? My other account became a brand account and may have info from Google Plus. I guess maybe they're talking about something else, but
Slack area says could certainly view it as this is a role model we respect. How do I do this? They don't respect me. They might have some sort of weird like store gay for me, but there is no respect. Otherwise they would do their work and try when I ask them to.
Respect.
At least that's how I would define it. Like the least that they can do is try the work. And when I tell them to put their phones away, they put their phones away. But that does not happen.
Wow.
Wow. I don't know. I'm sure it also confuses. It also confuses them. If you don't fill in the void, they will imagine their own. Well, that's what I let them do. They'll be like, "Oh, I bet Mr. Blank does this," and I'll be like, "Okay, that's fine. I'll let you think that." I think the other thing too is like they think it's weird that at the age I'm at, I'm doing this job because then they ask me that too. Like, you could have done anything. You could have done absolutely anything. Like I guess I could have, but here I am.
I mean, that's the thing. Oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? You could be whatever you want to be. Like that's kind of a story that we are still.
I like crushing that because then I'm just like, well, I just kind of chose to do this. It's like, is that what you've always wanted to do? No.
But it's not the only thing you're doing. Like
no, but they don't need to know. They don't need to
well,
know
that's
that.
I know that's true. That's true. But like, you don't have to tell them you're doing that to like say that like your career doesn't have to, in the time that we live, doesn't have to define like your whole creative or in a sense like professional identity in a way.
They do know I write for that Lego blog, and they're not impressed by that either, necessarily. They think that's lame and dorky.
Well,
because like all they want to do is make money, get rich, be influential. Like that's a really broad term for some of those kids, and that's not necessarily genuine for all of them. Like I'm not gonna like actually say that that's the case for all of them, but there's a lot where that kind of like
kids want to be a YouTuber, kids want to be an influencer.
Yep.
Like those are like career path ideas, not like I want to go be an actor in LA, like, or I want to be a famous musician. There's also this other thing because it seems like, oh, you just be yourself, right? And that's even what we're talking about. Oh, you can just be yourself. What is Matthew explaining here? My other channel became a brand a few years ago. For some reason, never uploaded that I recall. I don't know. I don't know how to interpret what he's talking about.
His channel that he never created content on became a brand in itself. Oh, OG account became a brand. How do you do that without content getting created though for it?
And I don't know what Williams says. Sometimes things are so cryptic, and I'm just not like. I am unknown even to myself. Chad has come out.
I mean, I am unknown to myself, and through the help of the seers that are my friends, I have a better idea of things.
See, Henry. Yeah, I don't know. Matthew, come in. Matthew Felty, come into. I've got the link. Come on to the show. If you're watching out there, and you don't have anything better to do,
exactly,
whatever your time zone is, come hang out with me and Henry for a few more minutes.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
I don't know if this answered any of your questions. I feel like we kind of skewed from.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, I think that it is because, I mean, I'm wrestling with all this stuff, like doing, LARPing into being a podcaster and, what is this? Oh, I'm live streaming, like, and am I live, like, yeah, like, so what is my purpose doing? Oh, this is for VNA, but it's also for attention. It's also to like help my channel. Like, it's like, is it going to help my channel? Like I mean, it's just all like, that's why what is the thread? And then like, how does like this information, this was kind of the thing I was trying to identify earlier, like watching all this YouTube content for 7-8 years, it informs ideas about all sorts of parts of my life, political, religious, hobby, entertainment, like all these things. And does it go somewhere? Does it just go, or does it like come back in and do something? And there's just a lot of things that are at play about it.
Yeah.
And that if you're not thinking about it, then you will just play the game they want you to play.
Sure. So intentionally, I don't know. My thing is like just intentionally play pretend, do whatever the heck you want to do without any regard for like the actual kind of algorithm. Because like I've made a couple videos now and I'm kind of like sad that they've gotten attraction because it was not like my best content. And now I keep addressing comments that like I keep it like everybody's annoyed with my nomenclature for something. And I'm like, guys, like I'm just shooting the stuff. Like I really didn't mean for this thing to blow up. Like that's an accidental kind of.
Just let it be what it, I just keep going.
But then I'm too nice to like not address it. So I'm like, hi, thanks for watching the video. This is what I meant by this. I don't know, but like those are. I mean, I feel like you've got a very intentional track where a lot of this your stuff you're headed, like with what you're doing is headed. This is probably out of the ordinary for what it is, doing like a quick kind of last minute live stream like this.
I've done these. I just haven't done them as much in a while. Yeah, like I go through phases, and this is just like it's not my job.
Yeah.
And so if like, but to do what I've done, I've had to treat parts of it like a job, to be honest.
Yeah.
And but there's times where it's like, I don't feel like I have enough energy to treat parts of it like a job. And so something like live streaming, and then there's not, when I was staying in hotels, like I was, I'm staying at family's house here. So it's like, but they happen to not be here tonight. So I don't feel like I have to like be quiet in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And so does the context change for whenever I was like at a like hotel? I'm just going to live stream tonight, just, till midnight. And so some of the context has changed on being able to live stream. I don't do as much live stream during the day. Like I've scheduled podcasts and try to like working through that kind of stuff. And, but one of my very first podcasts was my very first podcast with Pete from channel Strange Theology. We talked about like having spent time watching a lot of podcasts, and you're like, oh, I wish I was in the room for that conversation. And so like part of creating a space to have conversations, to find conversations that you're interested in with people you think are interesting. And that doesn't necessarily mean clout. I think you're interesting, or, like we've had a great conversation tonight. So, but like, and we're talking about clout and that kind of stuff. There's this interesting thing with the corner you mentioned earlier, but like I have felt, I don't know if it's exactly true or my read's completely right on this, but it's like my third conversation was with Jordan Hall and everyone, and back then, like he wasn't as like everywhere. A lot of people have had conversations with him in the corner, but it's like, oh, who's this dude? And then it's like, just kept going, just keep having conversations with people. People didn't hurt. Hey, I met this person at Symbolic World, and they got on, and then they're like, actually, I don't even want to be on YouTube anymore. Can you take me off? Or like, or they stay on, but they just killed their channel, or they're not doing anything. They may have watched a bunch of my stuff and never even commented again. It's just like crazy stuff, but just continuing to do that. Yet there are interesting things like where it's certain threads, I guess, have lost the thread, like the whole conversation about metamodernism, still having conversations with people about that. have conversations about the corner, have conversations about politics, have conversations about church and religion and orthodoxy and Protestantism happening. And so this guy, here's a great one. I just stumbled onto this stream. No idea what it's about.
Perfect.
Exact Texas or Exactix. Welcome. It's just about people who hang out on the internet that make things on YouTube and talk about it and also just have real lives and
Yep.
Discussing meaning, what's going on with AI or what's going on with religion and culture, politics, what's going on with comic books. That's what's going on. So I don't know if that answers your question, or it wasn't really a question, but addresses your statement. Yeah, seems like a huge lull in content in the last few weeks. Maybe it's just me. Say more.
I feel like there's been a lot in this like space, and
What do
I
you-
have the trouble where like I just don't take in as much as I used to, which is not a bad thing by any means. I've got other things to do, and so like when I talk with people like in the corner specifically, it's like, yeah, my filter's PVK and kind of just like PVK and like the chat that I'm in with some guys from this area, because I just don't have the time to be putting towards all the content. So most of the hot button topics that come up are PVK filtered, and then I don't even necessarily know what to contribute to them, because it's like, one, I don't care. Two, there's so much background, hyperlinks to like essentially address, and it's like, I guess I'll just watch from afar. It's harder to play in the public sphere. The bigger the sphere gets, I guess. Or the more salient or prolific some of the conversations and things are. Does he like it when it's kind of centrally located around Peterson? It's easy to follow, right? But everything's exploded in the last 8 years, less than that, And it's like, okay, where do you find your corner in the corner?
That's the thread, right? Like, and I feel like actually, he's put out this. Paul Vanderklay has put out some videos about like Peter Thiel and Peterson, and there is other people I've talked to, even in that conversation on Neil's channel last night about fatherhood, and it's like, or parenthood, but it was all fathers, so it's like, okay, and who was the internet's father, and why are we probably all actually like in this room, right? It was probably because of Jordan Peterson, and so it's kind of like, what do we do with that? That is, I mean, and that's a big part of my channel. That's a big part of my conversations is like, what are we doing with that now? And like, really interesting conversation coming up with Cadell last. It's my second one with him. He's got a book called Real Speculations, and he's a philosopher and calls himself a Christian atheist. And he does this like,
all right.
Well, go watch our last conversation. You can figure that out. But like, he does a trialogue, trilectic, or between like Sam Harris, Richard Dawkins, and Jordan Peterson now as like an evaluation on what these things have done to our culture. And he's like Hegelian, so it's like thesis, antithesis, synthesis. I mean, that's probably like a really lame, articulation of Hegel, but like, so what's the meme that's out there? So it's like, that's the question on, well, just our conversation. Like, he's tracking that down a little bit because it was a phenomenon. Like, everybody, there was like a moment in that conversation last night on Neil Daedalus' channel, like, where we're talking about fatherhood, and he's brought up 2 or 3 times, and it just feels like it's just heavy. There was like a real sense of heaviness, because there was like an acknowledgement that, like, I think Gray was talking about it, finding him at such a low place. And then it's also related to all this kind of like what's a lot of Gen Z kind of hate on Peterson now because he's too much of a liberal, classical liberal or whatever. And it's like, yeah, it just seems.
Is he any more classic liberal? I think he
What
lost
do you
that.
mean?
Like that was what was appealing
Oh,
about him initially. That's all
well,
I mean. You
yeah,
know, like
but because of the shift to the right, to the middle fingers out, like
sure.
he is not even in his more conservative posture. I think he's still seen as too liberal. Let's see.
That's
This
weird
is
because he's too conservative at this point for me.
I don't know if they're like catching up on the live thing, but AI can be given and AI can be taken away. May the name of the Lord still be praised. Yeah, of course. This all was it the EMP? Like everything gets.
Gosh, I hope so. No, I'm not. I don't actually. I'm not kidding.
You're not kidding, or you are kidding?
I can't tell sometimes. There are some days where I'm like, maybe we need in dystopian literature we would call something like that we would call that the green apocalypse.
Yeah, we are being experimented on with AI. Yes,
Stop messing with
but
the balance here.
even but even before that, with all of this, like it's all like there's even so much information extracted like through this because it's like all these are transcripted now. So it's like,
Yeah.
you know, uh, and so what do? You just like, do you Benedict option? Are we just out? Like, no principles to defend, no courage. Oh man, I wonder if she's always back at like the courage culture,
Probably.
vice signaling stuff.
Live chat's weird with that.
Yeah, those are good. Like, I kind of wanted to talk about courage culture. Like,
Didn't we also run across this like the last time we talked about like what is and is not courageous?
yeah,
Like, is it being is in the chat of the one that I was in. It was my rando that the courageous like conversation came up, or the courage conversation came up. Where it was like,
yeah,
is
brave
being
space.
online
Is it brave?
courageous or is it
What do you
not?
think? I think it depends on if you're like, well, courage is not foolishness or foolhardiness, and it's not what's the other one? It's as a virtue. Maybe bravery is in between. I can't remember what the. Are you looking it up right now?
The textbook definition of courage is lame. It's the ability to do something that frightens one.
Do the is it? I don't know if it's Aristotle or not, but like there he's got like the polls for like what is courage?
Courage is the mother of all virtues because without it you cannot consistently perform the others.
There's that, and then it sits between foolishness and cowardice, maybe, because you can't. You still have like courage takes overcoming some kind of, or even doing it in the face of fear, like it was saying, like that lame version it was. But and so like if you're in this kind of like vice signaling, like, oh, I'm courageous, but I'm really just being a dick. Like, yeah, like, oh, but people are like, oh yeah, he's so, like, I think, like I mentioned, like me, when I got to shake Dr. Peterson's hand at that conference, like, I mean, I was like, what do I say to this guy? What do I say to this guy? What do I say to this guy? I was like, he has heard this at least like 50,000 times. Thank you for your courage. But I didn't know anything. I like, that was like it. That was it. And I don't think that he's always a courageous person, that every move he made was like courageous. But I think that there were moments at a certain time in history where he exhibited actual courage. And then he was able to like sit with it with a type of confidence in certain settings that it didn't seem like anybody else had some like way to, like with Kathy Newman and the GQ interviews like that they had. Like, let's see, Exactix says Nietzsche said better than having the courage of your convictions is having the courage for an attack on your convictions. But of course, he didn't do that himself. Well, there you go. I guess like there was like, if we put Peterson in there, like an attack upon his convictions or whatever at a certain time. But I think like this was the question I had, like when I was going to ARC, I made this little video essay and I was thinking about what do you do when you have won the battle? Like, and we talked about the vibe shift. Like, what does the king do? Does he just go sit on his throne and like get fat?
That's interesting. I'm thinking about King Arthur right now.
Or does he go out with his people and help rebuild? Because it's still like in the ruins of that war.
Yeah.
Like we're in the ruins of that authoritarian thing that got beat. But that to me is the knight displays courage and gets the maiden and the glory. But then like after the dragon is slayed, like, and you have the rich, what do you do with that? Do you just hoard? You become the dragon? Like, that was the thing. And I just couldn't, like, had this idea of like, or this image of, instead of, like figuring out how do you re-engage is it possible? What were you thinking about with King
I was
Arthur?
thinking about King Arthur, so at least based on like T.H. White's version, which is pulling from Mallory's stuff. So Arthur becomes king, and the 12 different like rulers, lords, kings of Britain all get mad, right? And you have your allegiances and you have your big fight for the title of King of England in that land. And Arthur ultimately wins, right? And it's kind of in response to this like feudal anarchy almost, right? These lords get to do whatever they want. They're a terror upon one another. So Arthur brings order through the Round Table, right? He creates the chivalric code just based on the lore. Obviously, none of this is historically true. It's funny to trick people and say it did happen, though, and act like ignorant. But so then they do that, and that's where you get a lot of like the really great stories. Like we did all these fun quests and we went on this journey, but there's the point in which everybody gets kind of complacent because all of the bad has been cleared out and all the troubles have been done. And that's where the quest for the Holy Grail comes in, is because any of the bitter tensions and rivalries that existed between the knights for whatever reason. So like Morgan's children or Morgana's children have beef with like other knights in the Round Table because of like violence done against their families and stuff. And that's kept at bay through the common goal, which was to clean up the land and follow the chivalric code and do these quests. But when you run out of quests, those infightings and those things happen again. And Arthur said, well, we can't let that happen. We're not going to do that. So then he does the holy quest because he neglects to put God in the middle of this per se. And the morality was might makes right, but you use might rightly. And so then it turns into a holy war, to which none of them are prepared for. That wipes them out. And so what happens for the king, and then like after that, that's when like Camelot falls, because then everything's like everybody's miserable because the highest achievement, which was like seeking out like that which was holy, like only few could achieve, and left everybody else like frustrated, traumatized, and like ruined. And that's how Camelot falls. I don't know what that says, but like that's an interesting kind of direction and trajectory for like a nation, for a kingdom.
Well, yeah, and I think these patterns in Peugeot's, I mean, I just think that they're real. Like, I think that it's this, what's an interesting conversation, I guess, in my mind, is the conversation between this meta-modernism versus are humans always human? like is there a transcendent fate? Like, did modernism transcend something? Or, does postmodernism transcend something? Is there something, or are we humans that haven't changed that much? But maybe we've changed a lot. I don't know. And so, like, this pattern like that you've described with King Arthur, will it repeat itself? Like, will empire repeat itself again and again? The difference being, like, kind of, I think there's only, like, are there 2 or 3 empires now, like, basically west, east, far east, like, and uh let's see, St. George and Retirement Syndrome by Douglas Murray and Akira the Dawn is on point. And this question of, is it a repeating pattern, archetypal, versus the meta? Is there something beyond, through, like, that there's a metamorphosis in some way, like, and maybe it's not either or, but
Is this a holy quest? Are we on the quest for the Holy Grail right now?
ask Grail Country.
Oh,
I mean,
sure.
but I also think, like, I mean,
Well, I mean, are we searching for something that is like greater than ourselves because what we put together isn't working, and we're all gonna, like, only the few are going to survive that, right? Only few are going to be taken up with the Grail because they were found worthy. Like, that's what happens. You get Galahad, and you get one of the brothers, Sir Bears or Sir Boars, I don't remember, and you get, like, a nun lady who's, like, related to one of the knights, and everybody else comes home, like, messed up.
main character energy.
Yeah, who's the main characters, I guess, in this? No,
Well, it's interesting.
because Lancelot's a main character. He gets to see that and then has to come back because he's not worthy, because he's had this affair with Guinevere for forever and only pays for that after the quest.
And only what?
He only pays for that after the quest. There's, like,
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. The thing that it was making me think of when you were describing that was kind of harkening back to these kind of the culture warriors of the mimetic and the war on speech, that I feel like was almost basically the last 10 years. Like, I see, like, I'm just going to list some names. Like, I was looking at Peter Boghossian was on some podcast, and, there's Brett Weinstein, and there's the big beefs between Sargon of Akkad and James Lindsay. And there's, like, the, Peterson, the other Weinsteins, what's going on at Daily Wire and those characters, and, like, Joe Rogan and Temple, and, like, and it just kind of feels like there's definitely not this. It felt mythic in the sense of there was a big battle that they were fighting. Like, I remember this random little, like, Dave Rubin and Jordan Peterson were having this kind of intense live conversation about, and they were, like, Dave Rubin was deciding to, like, try to, like, make Locals, which is a alternative, like, Patreon type site. And because it was like, well, we're about to get canceled, or these platforms are, like, doing stuff so we can't just, like, depend on these platforms, right? And it seems epic, I mentioned Tim Pool going on Joe Rogan to talk to the CEO of Twitter, like, and it's like Elon Musk just comes in and whoosh, it's like, and we're watching these things happen, and now let that war to some degree, it has, like, there's a level of that's settled, and it's like, well, what in that pattern that you were talking about with the Grail, what yeah, what is that? Are we just having to find new bad guys to fight? And but it's like I can't remember. They come back traumatized, or they come back and
Well, because they have to come back because it's holy rites, right, to go find the Grail, and then a bunch of them come across like trials and like quests that they're just not pure enough for.
I just think that's all true. And that's why I'm talking about this stuff that really happened. Like that picture that sits in my backdrop of my normal studio that was made by J.G. Fox. Like it was a medieval. He put all of that into a medieval framework.
Yeah.
Have you ever gone and looked at that, like on the
No, not
on the
closely.
website? Yeah. It says X Taxes says many don't have the time or mental energy left to have an interest in politics. Just work, eat, sleep, game, internet, etc. Oh, she is definitely watching from the beginning.
Definitely.
The man was watching them. Yeah. So I guess that's what I mean, like the thread, like the plot, lost the plot. Like where, is the, the attention that's been given by the new war on the right. Like it's creating war. But what's so funny about that is like all the, the people on the right that are like having the squabbles of speech between like the, could call the dissident right and the deep rightists or the America First foils, is like they don't like the neocons because the neocons are always trying to drum up war. Yet it's like, but that's like kinetic war, right? And this is like drumming up mimetic war. They're like, we've got to drum up the mimetic war machine for the attention.
Yeah.
And so these people, there was a war or something. And now we're on the other side of that. And that's where it's like, it felt like when Musk bought Twitter, like it felt like there was like it felt like there were tumbleweeds on Twitter for like 6 months where it had been like this, Brian Stelter, you're a piece of shit. Like, like over and over, like all this, like, all that kind of stuff. And Alex Jones is censored and there's all this like, and now it just felt like all that, just like all that air. It was like the end of a battle, like an end of something. And so who were on the quest and who wasn't worthy and who was.
Yeah.
I don't know. I might be taking it too far, but I just like.
I don't know.
It felt real to me.
It was scary. I remember being really angry about all of that, and like we could just so easily, with such strange power through Twitter, just absolutely ruin somebody's life just with a little bit of like obsessive investigative research.
Yeah.
With like the sole purpose to destroy.
Yeah. And it's because that's power. Like that was kind of the thing. Like it was this inverted hierarchy with, you could have like no real life power, but then you like turn somebody, I'm going to send this to their boss, and you live in like Delaware and they live in, Idaho, and you get somebody fired. Holy shit. Like, woo.
Yeah.
Nothing's going on in your life. That feels like a lot. I've been doing reading that gave me a whole new, this is Sean Kruger, mythological framework for understanding our tendency for war. Say more, Sean. Come talk to us about it.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably have to be responsible and finally go to bed.
No responsibility.
Oh, all right. Well, if you insist.
Matthew Felty, PVK and others have been my filer for a while. Who are your others? Filter. Who are your others, Felty? Okay, Sean, come on. Tell us you'll have to introduce yourself. The link should be at the top of the chat. So noticeable in these
What
circles is the incessant
bush?
beating about the bush and talking about feelings and wheelings.
What bush? What bush are we beating around?
I didn't say the the Voldemort name. I did not say that, but that I don't know if she's caught up to that point. X is great now. There was like you're in a certain way, yes. In a certain way, like it's as intended, but it just doesn't have like I'm not an underdog or I'm not a participating in the spirit of the underdog on X now, I guess, in a certain way. Let's see what Sean Kruger has to say about mythological framework for understanding our tendencies for war. Yeah, I mean, that's spiritual war. Like, is it the most interesting thing in a way? Like, we have these fronts, these kinetic wars. Let's see. It's exactly X, by the way. I produced cable TV shows alongside Alex Jones in the 90s. Oh, his show was right after mine. He had me over to his apartment, and the entire place is covered with hundreds of printicles of art. Okay. You've stumbled on to our channel. My channel. Sorry, I don't want to implicate you, Henry, with that.
Okay. Subscribe to my channel, Wholly Unfocused.
Subscribe, like, and subscribe if you're out there.
Go watch my 101 Dalmatians analysis video that I did.
Oh, say more. Check this out. Boom. Like and subscribe.
Perfect. Smash the bell for notifications.
Smash the bell. Having a skill issue, working on jumping on.
I think as soon as Sean jumps on, I'm going to jump off so you have a co-host.
We'll see. Yeah, I'll do a little rando with him and then see what he has to say. Let's see. Koreanism, you're not responding in real time, by the way. Yeah. We figured that one out long ago. We'll see. I don't know. The Grail, I liked how you outlined the Grail country or the search for the Grail. Like you did a really good job. All right, we've got, I know this, Sean. Hey man, what's up?
Hey there. So my apologies. I just moved my desk and not everything is set up. So it was messing me up today.
Yeah, no worries.
But
yeah, dude. So go. Yeah, you're kind of you've been in the corner. You've talked to people. So yeah, I don't have to do like introduction. We don't have to do like a randos thing. But
yeah, go watch
so
something I did with Neil.
Yeah, you did one with Neil on Neil Daedalus. So, and you've got your own channel. What is your channel?
It's the Thanksgiving Way, but I haven't done much uploads lately.
So, but what's your ideas about war, mythic war?
So, let me. The thing that is kind of interesting that I learned recently was I was reading a variant of the creation story, and it sets the stage. You know, this is before our world is formed. This is people who are among the children of the Elohim, and it talks about a conflict that happens, and you know there's kind of a lot here, but the origin of it is the children of the Elohim have been given kind of an endowment of power so they can work with matter and learn line upon line and precept upon precept. And they're just kind of going through this process of, you know, learning to become like the Elohim. Now, there's a conflict that starts where some people from another place in the cosmos come over and a war happens. And what happens is all of the children of the Elohim who are a part of this war end up being kind of injured. Kind of the way when someone comes home from war, there's some internal conflict that remains with them, and there's kind of a permanent psychological damage that happens from being a part of a war. So in this, this endowment of power that the Elohim gave them so that they could learn to become like the Elohim was no longer able to continue with them, because they now had this internal conflict. And there was something about participating in war at all that has a tendency to make it so that people are like, it damages us on the inside. And kind of the mythological idea of this creation story is that they needed to have some way of resetting everyone and starting them over on this process of learning line upon line to become like the Elohim again. And what they do is essentially create this world and create the first man, who is one of the people who was injured in the war. And the idea is that this is, it presents this world as kind of a recovery mission to try and recover everyone who was injured in this conflict that had happened. And kind of the interesting offshoot from this is the idea that, everyone who's alive was previously a child of the Elohim. And we were all on the side of trying to drive these other people out of the realms of the Elohim, but we were all injured by being a part of the conflict. And it's all about us trying to be internally reconciled and learn how to be, learn how to not have that internal division anymore, so that we can learn to be like the Elohim again. And the thing that I find most interesting about that is considering that framework for understanding conflict, particularly in regard to what Jesus says about loving our enemies, and how, he demonstrates a way for us that is a way that doesn't recognize us as having enemies. Yes, we do have enemies. We do have people that want to hurt us sometimes. But it's interesting that he's not encouraging us to resist them and take up arms against them, because, according to this mythological framework from the Ianthe, it's this idea that that's what got us here in the first place, is participating in conflict.
So it's a deep pattern.
Yeah.
No more gnashing of teeth. No more. I guess that's kind of the eschatological vision, is, the end of all of that. So like ultimate reconciliation within. But I mean, that's not I guess that's kind of a grand meta narrative. I guess something more like King Arthur is like kind of a more downscaled, like there's a relationship, like I guess there's kind of a hierarchical one, but like a relationship to how that may play out in our lives. But the kind of, like I was saying, like that, the meta narrative, creation, fall, redemption, restoration, or something like that. You go, like, get up on par with us. Get your shoulders trying to.
I'm just trying to get the light out of the frame.
I think that's my cue to dip.
All right, dude. Well, I think that's good. Do you have any other? Hey, thanks for hanging out, Henry, man.
Yeah, that was fun.
And we're gonna close down here pretty soon, but because it is getting late. But Dude, have a great night. Everyone check out Henry's what is it? Wholly Unfocused Thoughts.
Wholly Unfocused. I
Wholly
rebranded.
Unfocused.
Yeah.
I noticed trying to it's okay, like in that creation mode,
Yeah.
It's okay to
Wholly
play.
Unfocused. Check me out, I guess. I don't know.
Holy with a W, holy.
Yeah.
Wholly Unfocused. All right. Y'all have a good night, Henry. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Dude. Yeah. So Sean, I don't know. Did you have any other thoughts? Just more like how you would map that onto more specific situations, more current, or just kind of as a general thing?
So the big thing for me that kind of turns into the takeaway is I look at all of this, people kind of stoking war on both sides. And kind of the big thing for me is I start to feel like the whole thing is a trap. Like, when we're participating in conflict, that is basically us participating in the thing that Lucifer is hoping for. Like, if we want to have a relationship with God, we have to figure out how to be at peace. And so when I look at the left and all the stuff that they do, and I look at the right and all the stuff that's going on now, I see two sides of basically the same conflict. And it feels like in the discourse, there's not really a place to be at peace, because everyone's expecting you to be fighting on one side or the other. And so my channel, I renamed it to the Thanksgiving Way because I want to start doing various readings from various records that I have found. And another interesting one. So in some of these records that I find, and I know that they are not, accepted as scripture by anyone else. That's fine. But among these records, there are temple teachings. And, we've got the Ianthe temple teachings. I also have read from the Nemenhah temple teachings, which, it follows the creation and the story of Adam as Adam goes through his life. And the name, the Thanksgiving Way, that I named my channel actually comes from the Nemenhah record. And the thing that's significant there, and this idea of war comes up there too, where it tells this story and it talks about the Lucifer character coming around and preaching to Adam this idea that, there are strong men and there are weak men, and the strong men need to manage the weak men and control them. And all of all the people who adhere to that doctrine end up, becoming a part of what they call the Lodge of the Strong Men. And then all of the people who are not able to be the strong men, who end up being oppressed, basically become the Lodge of the Weak Men. And that's a very bitter, very complainant kind of place, and Adam, his lodge is the Lodge of the Thanksgiving Way. So he's not buying into the doctrine of men need to manage each other, and he's not buying into the doctrine of all the people who are bitter and resentful about being managed. He, with his wife and whoever will continue with them, is occupying this Lodge of the Thanksgiving Way, giving thanksgiving to their creator. And, he's kind of standoffish about all these doctrines, and he basically watches and sees how it all plays out. And he watches the conflict between the Lodge of the Strong Men and the Lodge of the Weak Men play out, where eventually the Lodge of the Weak Men rise up and kill all the men in the Lodge of the Strong Men, and then take their wives and enslave their children. At which point they basically become the new Lodge of the Strong Men, which I feel like is a model for how all war has gone that we have ever observed.
Yeah, revolution, counter-revolution, and
So, but I look at that as another example of how, conflict is conflict is kind of giving in to the other side as opposed to the side that God is inviting us to. Because he's inviting us to peace and he's inviting us to reconciliation. Every society has their founding myth that is based off of redemptive violence. But our founding myth as Christians is redemptive sacrifice.
Yep. Dude, Sean, that's a compelling way to kind of wrap things up tonight. I appreciate you coming on and sharing about the mythos of war, the archetypes of war that seem to continue to exist, not only in the kinetic spaces, but now in the mimetic. I don't know. Maybe it's always been the spiritual spaces, but
It's always spiritual and then it's kinetic.
So yeah. But yeah, man, I'm gonna shut this thing down tonight. I appreciate you coming on, dude.
Well, it's nice getting to meet you.
Yeah, meet you face to face here. All right, dude. Well, you're welcome, dude. All right. Well, this has been a good night hanging out, virtually not alone, with Henry and with Sean here on yours truly, doing some live conversation crafting. Appreciate people in the comment section. Exact says, what do you say? Do you do these streams regularly? No, I'm going to try to do some more regular streaming. I've done streaming in the past on my channel, but I do podcasts. They release on Mondays at around 9:30, and you can catch those. You can look on my channel. Yeah, I'm wanting to do more live streaming. I asked a question on my community tab. How do we do community on here? And Chad, who many of y'all know if you've paid attention to this corner of the internet, he's like, I don't think you can. It really needs to filter back into life. And I agree in that this is part of an abstracted level, but it is also, in Grim Grizz's terms, this is also where we are at too. And so, yeah. And then Xadderx says, okay, thanks, man. I think you popped up because of the voice interview. Yeah, that was a big interview for a big podcast episode for me. My biggest one. He's been gracious to come on and have these conversations with me. And I got to meet him at the ARC conference this past year over in London. He's been paying attention to this corner of the internet for a long time. I think he's been in Paul Vanderklay's office before. Anyways, this is the corner of the internet that we hang out in. And yeah, but there's some other streams that might pop up in your algo. Exactex, Luke Thompson, Whitestone Name, Paul Vanderklay. He streams on Fridays. And Grim Grizz does a show a lot of days. Neil Daedalus is doing some randos conversations and some roundtable estuary conversations, and you can learn about these things. But yeah, this has been good. A lot of people watching over on X, or at least that's what X tells me. Yeah, I'm looking here on the. So if you've been on X, the way to hang out is over on YouTube in the comments on Christian Baxter _YT. Yours truly. So don't forget, like, subscribe. Let's see. Yeah, Sean said he enjoyed his rando conversation with Neil. Matthew says, check your email when you can. I'd like to work with you or someone else in a more organized manner. Have a happy Thanksgiving. I will check it out. Official secular Koranism has been alive in the comments, in the comment section. Thanks for participating. even in your criticisms. And yeah, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. And don't forget to offer up thanks of gratitude for the good that you have and the good that we have, and the good for others. So with that, if you've made it this long and you're catching up not live, leave a comment and we'll keep the conversation going for a little bit. But I'm gonna shut her down, and thanks for everyone for hanging out today.